December 17th, 2020. I am calling this meeting to order in accordance with the Commonwealth of Mass Executive Order, suspending certain provisions of open meeting law. We are allowed to conduct this meeting online. There is both telephone and video conference access. I don't see any telephone only folks here, but if someone arrives, we can tell them how to raise their hand using #9. It looks like there are so few of us. If you have to raise your hand, just hit the participant button, raise hand, or wave at us. After the presentation and our deliberations, I'll unmute microphones and we'll have public comment. And Heather will be running the meeting. If we have bandwidth issues, she may turn off. Heather, I'm talking about you, the third person. Heather may turn off the video. We've had a little bit of issue with bandwidth. Once we've had public comment, I'll call for a motion to continue, approve with conditions, or not approve. We'll have a second and a roll call vote, and then the applicants will be free to go. So with that, I welcome you. So we have 4 continued public hearings, 2 new public hearings. And can I just have a show of hand on the commissioners? How did you all get to see the 3 or 4 public site visits that we were allowed to go on? Did you all drive around? Okay, so everybody did go. And I see Jane has arrived. We'll see if other commissioners. So we did go around and see all the different projects. So why don't we, I'm just going to hang on a sec. Heather, the 2 new public hearings are very short, correct? 281 Lexington Road is a stone wall. 410 is replacing windows. All right, I see.
520 Lexington Road will also be quick because that's
a bay window. So part of me wants to just knock those off. Not that was the wrong way to say it. Do those applications so that we can focus more on the others. Would that be all right with the commission if I don't see any objections? I think David and Lori are here. Yes. So what I'd like to do is do these applications first, and then so we're almost going in reverse order. But we'll get back. We'll start with 26 Elm Street, and I'm guessing in like 15 minutes. So I'm just going to pull that as that pull rank here as chair. So why don't we let's look at 281 Lexington Road first. This is David and Lori Owen, and this is to replace a stone wall. Would you all mind going first? I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit.
Yes.
Heather, would you mind putting up the application for And David and Lori, if you wouldn't mind just kind of walking us through it. I assume the commissioners have looked at the application, but it's pretty straightforward. I am not entirely sure if it's going to require a site visit, but let's take a look. And the only reason I say that is I don't think there was an elevation drawing. There's a plan drawing and a photograph, but commissioners will tell us. So here is the application.
Shall we start, or do you want us to wait?
Yes, go ahead. Why don't you go ahead? And I apologize for the slight.
Okay. Can you hear? Well, I guess you can hear us, right?
Please go ahead. Thank you.
So I'm Lori Owen. So we are requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition and removal of our existing crumbling cinder block retaining wall that's barely visible from the public way. We are seeking to replace that with a dry laid large fieldstone wall in the same location and at the same height as the current cinder block wall. The fieldstones will be sourced from an old existing fieldstone wall on a farm in Fitchburg. The work will be performed by Ramsden Fieldstone Walls. This firm has approximately 30 years experience in the area. It specializes in dry lake fieldstone walls. They've done approximately 1,000 walls to date, many of which are in Concord and the surrounding towns. And the firm is often a subcontractor on projects involving house construction. And they've done many projects with North River builders. So that's what we're
All right,
wanting.
and tell us where does the wall start and end here in this diagram?
So I can,
Okay.
I can point this out. The mouse, can you see my mouse pointer here?
Yes.
Am I pointing at the wall? I see another mouse there, so.
There you go.
Heather, is that your mouse?
That's my mouse. We can't see your mouse because you're
No.
not screen sharing.
Okay, okay.
Okay,
do you
so the wall, can you see that?
Yes, there you are.
yes. There you are.
The beginning of the wall, and in the picture that you saw, if we go back to it, you all, the first one.
Is Lexington Road on the bottom of the drawing?
It is.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
it is.
it is.
All right,
So.
so we're
you go
just
into
seeing
the
like the
next
first.
picture. This is an example of what we intend to have put in,
Okay,
but
there's
there.
the
So
start.
that's what I was pointing, see that bush? That's what I was pointing at, in the other, is
Okay.
that bush.
On the plan.
That's
So the wall
same
goes,
location.
yeah, it goes
that's-
back from here and then turns.
Yes,
Okay,
That's
maybe if we
right.
could just look at that plan one more time, Heather, sorry
Yeah.
to make you jump around.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I can't scroll, there we go, great.
All
So
right,
that's
so,
where it begins,
Oh,
goes
yeah.
straight back, then curves around, follows the contours of the hill. And then we have a garage on the other side of our house. And this is the same, from this same location over.
okay, but
here.
all we can see from Lexington Road is the right-hand side.
That's right, that's right. And then to the right of what we're looking at right now and in the picture is an existing fieldstone wall that faces Lexington Road, perpendicular, parallel to it. So we're not touching that. It's just this one that goes back that perpendicular and then, goes across. And as you say, you just see a very small portion of it from the road.
Okay. Thank you. That seems pretty straightforward to me. I mean, I'm disappointed the firm only has built 1,000 walls. That's not really that much experience. Let me go around and see if commissioners have any comment. Paul, I'm just going to pick you in order on my screen.
No, I have no questions, no comment.
Nia. Oh, you got to unmute yourself there.
I think I'm clear that on the site plan, on the right-hand side, the stones that are depicted are what the picture was that we just saw. So the new part of the stone wall would be a continuation of that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Right. I have no issue. Sounds wonderful.
Thank you, ma'am. Luis?
I drive through there every day and I have no issues. I think it's a great addition or modification.
And Kate?
I agree with everybody else. Looks great, no issues, and you'll enjoy it.
Dennis, any comment?
Yeah, I'm not very fond of rotting concrete blocks, so I think it's wonderful.
All right, and so is there any public comment on this application at 281 Lexington Road to replace the stone wall? We have a limited gallery this evening. I see no public comment, so I'd look for a motion. I do not think this requires a site visit.
No.
I move that we approve the application for 281 Lexington Road to replace the stone wall as submitted.
I second.
All in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Kate?
Aye.
Paul, Dennis, Luis, Nia.
Aye.
Aye.
It's a unanimous aye. Thank you, David and Lori. Thank you for, and good luck when the snow melts. I suppose the work will happen.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
All right, have a good evening.
You
You
too.
too.
Thank you.
Now, Luis, we're going to move on to you, so you need to recuse yourself. And that means that Dennis, you become our fifth voter.
Oh, gosh.
How exciting.
And you're the window police, no less.
Yeah.
All right, so this is Luis de Berisbeitia, Berisbeitia,
Very Spatia.
to place windows at 410 Lexington Road. So this is a, Senora, would you mind presenting your application?
410 Lexington Road has a south-facing facade, which has four rather narrow windows that correspond to the sleeping rooms that face that way. These windows are actually replacement of replacements, and they are getting narrower and narrower and narrower as time goes by. So what we're doing is that we want to put more energy efficient windows that are going to be just a little wider, but by 1 inch, which is hard to see on the picture because what the opening that you see on the picture, and actually it's the upper floor, the one that it's what you see on the picture, it's just the glass part, which has been reduced because it's replacement on the replacement. So that glass part is going to be a little wider. And then the frame of the window, which is currently 3.5 inches wide, we want to increase it to 4.5 inches wide. And that is to make it consistent with the front of the house, which in 2018 had the same treatment. The frames were increased from 3.5 to 4.5. So other than that, the windows are the same height. It's just a little wider by 1 inch. The windows are Marvin Ultimate windows. They have no panes. They are just, how you call them, over and over or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like a replacement in kind.
Okay.
Almost.
All right. Thank you, sir.
By the way, the only part that you can see this part of the house if you go into the Cambridge Turnpike and you stand up on the bridge over the Millbrook. And if you drive through Hawthorne Lane and you get the right angle, then you can see that part of the house as well from a public road, public way.
I think people are distracted looking for the Emerson
Orchard House.
Orchard House, sorry.
That's right.
All right, thank you, sir. I have no comments or questions. Let me go around and see if commissioners. Paul?
No, I think it's straightforward. I have no questions and no objection to it.
Nia?
Luis, I just had one question that I was confused about. Obviously, you're just doing that third upper level. And I think the specs were for evergreen or forest green sashes.
Yes. That's really the only thing that we're changing. And the reason that we're doing that, the deep evergreen is the same color that we have in the doors on the front. So we want to make this like a unifying contrast color for the whole house. And in this particular case, as the windows have no sashes, etc., it's just a little border, which is actually quite narrow. It's probably less than 1 inch that surrounds the upper sash and the lower sash. But we thought that would be an appropriate change to change a little bit the monotony of that whole facade, which is a very large facade. It goes for a whole 3 floors from the ground level, which is actually the basement, to the mid-level that you see there, which is the first floor, and then to that second floor. So we wanted to change a little bit and give it a little bit of color, but it's a very tiny addition that it's almost unperceivable.
Okay, but the 2 floors below, those windows do not have the green sash.
No, they do not have the green sash, but eventually we will ask for them to have the green sash because the plan in a future application is to change the window that you see that would be on the first floor, calling the ground floor, the basement, and the next one up the first floor. We're going to make an application to change those windows substantially. We want to have more windows that corresponds to the dining room. It's going to be more windows and it's gonna be wider. And also
Okay.
on the basement part, we're gonna have more windows, and they are gonna be, we're gonna ask for the same treatment with a dark evergreen.
Right, okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Nia?
No, thank you.
Dennis?
Looks fine to me.
Thank you, sir. Kate?
I agree. Looks fine. Thanks for Nia for getting that clarified. But I have no objections.
All right. I see no other commissioners, so I'm going to see if there's any public comment. Is there any public comment on the application to replace windows at 410 Lexington Road? Seeing none, I would look for a motion from the commission.
I move that we approve the application for certificate of appropriateness with respect to the property at 410 Lexington Road as submitted.
Second,
Thank you. All in favor? Paul?
Aye.
Aye.
Nia? Dennis?
Aye.
Kate? And I'm an aye. All right, sir, you are approved. And thank you for the application. And now you can unrecuse yourself.
Thank you very much, and I'm recusing myself.
And Dennis, thank you for voting there.
You're
All
welcome.
right, so that takes care of our new public hearing. So we're going to go back to continue public hearings, and I'd like, could we look at 520 Lexington Road since Jeff Young is here? And this is a very small, I think what we're doing here, Jeff, remind me, is we're not doing anything to the door on the porch, correct? Oh, you're muted though, sir.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah, we're gonna keep the door as it is
Okay.
and just build inside, around that.
And we reviewed the bay window last time. That was not controversial. So I think everyone here is familiar with this application. Yes, wave at me if you're not. Hello, Melinda. All right, so let's, I don't think, unless, do any commissioners have any questions about this? Where essentially the application stands as is. We're not doing anything different. I don't see any questions. Melinda, I'm gonna, let's see.
Does it stand as is? It doesn't, because they want to replace that with a window. So it unless they've changed the application.
Yeah, we're gonna leave, we're not gonna change the door to a
That's
window.
right.
We're gonna,
Thank you.
we're just gonna do the bay window.
And leave the door as is.
Right.
That's not a bad point. Maybe if you could note that up and send it to Heather for inclusion in the application, just so we have the
Sure.
record and maybe
Okay.
sign it.
I already have an email.
You do. Okay.
Good.
All right, thank you. All right, so Melinda, I see you've arrived now, so I'm gonna bump Dennis out of voting. Take away your voting rights, which is very un-American.
Okay, sorry,
I will say.
I apologize.
I don't know. These days it may be okay. I don't know.
I had something I had to do. Sorry.
That's all right. Would you mind voting on this one?
No, I'm happy to vote on this one.
All right, I think this is, we've discussed it as a commission, so I'm going to see if there's any public comment on this application at 520 Lexington Road to replace a existing window with a bay window, and we're leaving the door where it was. Is there any comment? I see none, so I would look for a motion from the commission.
I will move that we approve the application for certificate of appropriateness for 420 Lexington Road as discussed at our prior meeting, and subject to the modification that the existing porch on the right side of the building as you face it from Lexington Road will not be modified and the door will not be changed.
520 Lexington Road, just a minor
Excuse me,
correction.
520.
And a second, do I get a second there?
Second,
Second, all in favor? Paul, you made the motion. Nia,
aye.
Luis,
Aye.
Melinda,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Kate, you didn't need to vote either.
I think so. Yeah.
But how do you and Dennis vote?
Oh,
Aye.
aye.
It's a unanimous approval. Jeff, thank you. And thanks for
Great.
coming back.
Oh, no worries. Thank
All
you.
right, so Heather, as long as that paperwork's all straight, we are all set. And Jeff, you're free to go.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Have a great night.
You too. All right, thank you, folks. So we're going to get back to our continued public hearings. Thank you for letting us get that business out of the way. So let's start with 26 Elm Street. This is Nishadik Architects. This is to demolish a garage and construct a new garage, including lighting, paving, air conditioning, condensers, and some hardscape changes. Now, we all, I think everyone, and I haven't, Melinda, you're new to the meeting. Did you get to drive by and look?
I did not. I'm sorry.
Okay. Are you okay to proceed? I think the rest of us all drove by. And I don't have any questions about the site visit. I see Lisa's here from Nishadik. Why don't we just go through this quickly? Lisa, you submitted some new drawings, yes?
Yes. So
Can we just walk through those real quick?
Sure. So it's essentially the similar drawings. If you scroll to the next drawing down the page there, Heather, it's the same front elevation, and I've shadowed in where the existing garage is. So I've kind of done that on all 4 sides. So we have everything with the siding on it, and then just showing with the silhouette of the existing garage on it.
Okay.
Just to get a little bit of perspective. The only other thing that changed was if you scroll to the back elevation there, Heather, the river side.
Those are the side elevations, same thing, showing existing and new.
And so the only thing that changed here was the air conditioning condenser that was previously located on the ground is a heat pump, so it'll be hung off the back of the house. But that's really the only other change to the drawings besides the shadowing.
Will there be some screening, Lance, some shrubbery?
I believe Chris is on the phone. I believe he was planning on putting some greenery bushes around it so that it would hide it, because I don't think he really likes to look at them either. So
I mean, as of now, there's nothing behind there, but we're certainly perfectly happy to put some shrubbery or something appropriate behind that.
And we have
it helps on the view from the river.
We have a
particularly
site
on
plan.
the
Do we
elevated.
have a site plan somewhere, by the way? I don't remember.
oh, you know,
I don't remember a site plan.
I don't either.
oh. Okay, so let me just go over.
Application construction checklist. I'm sorry, I'm looking through.
Go to.
I recall you're repaving the driveway.
Yes. So on the plan of the drawing, so I guess you have to go back to the other drawings that are there for the site plan. Let's see here, I can put up the site plan on my screen. I'm just getting to it because we had the NRC meeting last night. They kind of conditionally approved it based on what we've presented towards them, and they just wanted to leave the rec open because if we need to make any changes for historic districts or the zoning board of appeals, we can do that.
Can we see that site plan, Lisa? Is that?
Yeah.
Can you share?
Can I share my screen, Heather?
Yep. I don't know. Do I need to?
I think it should pop up and ask. I just asked to share my screen.
Right, you have to pick the screen. And I'm just curious. There it is. Okay.
So this is the Sudbury River.
All right, so maybe
There's
just describe the hardscape changes. To us.
Sure. So the hardscape. that we're showing, we're leaving kind of the pathways that's already there alone. There's an existing retaining wall. The bluestone path that currently exists will be just adjusted to for the new door locations. I think they slide over a little bit on both, and so we'll just pick up that paving and adjust it to the new door locations. And the only other item that we were going to do is we think we'll need to replace the driveway, and I believe it's already chip sealed. So we were going to do a chip seal replacement, but the first 4 inches on the left-hand side kind of slope away from the driveway, and we were asking to put some cobble edging along that just to kind of keep the edge of the driveway.
Lisa, were you also considering that the same cobbles in the turnout just on that front part of the right-hand side?
Right. We did not have that on the application, but Chris had asked if we could also add the cobbles along the outside edges too, and I can update the drawing to reflect that.
And thank you. Ed, could you talk about the lighting real quick? I noticed in the application there are 2 barn lights, one above each garage door. Is that, those are shown on the elevation, correct?
Yes, I believe so. So I don't know if I stopped sharing my screen.
Oh, there they are. Okay.
Put her.
Let's see. So this is not a dark sky issue. Is there a wattage specified somewhere?
I believe so.
Yes, photos of products. There it is.
So I believe those 2 are rated for dark sky. The other 2 that are being proposed by the side doors are similar to the ones that are on the mudroom side of the house.
Okay, yeah, 50 watt max, that's fine.
Yeah. And then
compact LED. Okay. Okay. I don't really have any questions. I'm just looking through the application. All right, why don't we, thank you, Lisa. Why don't we go around and see if commissioners have comments? Paul, any thoughts?
I did visit the site and spent some time talking to the owner. And I think given the depth of this building, even though it's significantly taller, that it actually is very much in proportion on the overall site. So I don't have any problem with what's proposed. I think the cobble border on the left side of the driveway and the corresponding border on the other side will create definition and will look good. So I don't have a problem with what's proposed here. Subject, I think, to screening if the owner's willing to do it, even of the condensers that are existing. I don't think we can make that a condition.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Nia.
I totally agree with Paul. I think the new building is totally appropriate. It's much more in scale than with the house than the existing garage. I think it would be a great addition. And I second his request for screening. I mean, anything we are doing now that is visible from the river or the public way, we always require screening. And I realize these condensers are not moving, but in the spirit of a new building, we would highly recommend evergreen screening.
And I'd be happy to ensure that something appropriate is put in there.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Nia. Luis.
I really have no comments other than to echo my fellow commissioners. I think that it's an appropriate modification.
Thank you, sir. Dennis?
I think it's a very handsome building. And I've said last week, I thought it was nicely proportioned with the house, since the house stands fairly high. My only suggestion is, back on the screening issue, in my experience, putting plantings around condensers is problematic because the heat they give off and the wind that comes out of them You'd have to put them out quite a distance, which you may not want to use. One might not want to do to eat up your yard, and they might not survive very well. I think you're better off putting a low fencing around there that might be painted to match the building or could be left natural. But I think you'd find that much more satisfactory to do that and block the site from the river.
All right, thank you, Dennis. Any other thoughts? No? Melinda?
I have to defer to my teammates since I was unable to see it myself personally.
Melinda defers. All right, thank you. And Kate?
Oh, hi.
Hey,
Yes, I agree with my colleagues, and I tend to really despair at taller garages, but this one will actually, I think, look terrific with the scale. And I agree with Dennis. Maybe some kind of fencing might actually be more manageable. But anyway, I think it looks great.
All right, thank you. And I have no additional comments. I do think it, I agree with my fellow commissioners. I think it's a handsome addition. So is there any public comment for this application at 26 Elm Street to construct a new garage and make various improvements to the site? I see none, so I'd look for a motion from the commission.
I move that we approve the application for 26 Elm Street to demolish existing garage and construct new garage, including lighting, paving, new AC condenser, and changes to hardscaping as submitted, with the hope that they will also add some sort of screening, either with shrubbery or fencing to screen the condensers.
Second.
All right, we've got a second. All in favor? Paul?
Aye.
Nia?
Aye.
Kate? Melinda?
Aye.
Luis?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. The one thing I would actually suggest is the screening on the screen on the windows, to make sure it's the invisible screen.
All right, no black.
Just so you don't see black holes, but I think you
Understood.
You already know.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
They're same windows we've used in the house, so.
Okay.
One
All
other
right. Well,
question I had, so if we
yes, go
have
ahead.
to, if we were going to put some screen, like fence screening around, would we need to come back and have that approved?
Let's try to do it administratively, Lisa. I think if you
Okay.
just submit it to Heather,
Okay.
I think Heather, you and I could look at it, and if it's nothing substantial, I think the commission, I'm hoping, would just defer to us to make a decision.
Absolutely.
If it became a super ornate fence with a gate and everything else, we'd have to come back.
No problem.
That doesn't sound like that's what's gonna happen.
Well, thanks for your consideration. I appreciate it.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very
Good
much for
luck.
your
And
time
Lisa,
tonight.
thank you for the presentation. Well done. It's a nice package.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, folks, you're free to go. All right, thank you, everyone. We're moving on to Pam Gannon, Dave Douglas, 66 Monument Street. This is to demolish an existing addition, construct a new addition, remove a chimney, rebuild a bay window, replace windows, and restore a front door. So again, I think, did everyone, I drove by for my site visit. It looks like most people did. So are there any new drawings since last time? Heather, I can't remember. I think there might have.
Pam Gannon reminded me that we weren't showing you where our air conditioning condensers were going. So they're added in at the bottom of the plan that Heather has on the screen now, next to the dining room bay. And we were hoping to have pointed it out at the site visit, but I'm glad you guys made the different arrangement to come when there was no snow on the ground. But you can barely see it. The hill is so steep, and we're showing planting around it. I think that a small fence could work too. Again, the angle is so steep that, we'd be happy to put a fence. I think you might even get away with just a fence going one direction. Yeah, sorry, going parallel to the road. Sorry, I'm hearing an echo. But that's the only thing that's new.
And I think we got a photo today. Heather, you mailed that around,
Yeah,
sort of showing that angle.
yes, because we weren't sure if everybody had seen it.
Okay, and it's there on the right, sort of right there. You can sort of barely see it.
Yeah, and if you zoom in, you can just barely see the existing white fence that is at the front face of the bay. You can see it off to that side. So it's, it's a funny thing with the angles there.
So I would say before I open it up to the commission, my only question was, I did see condensate coming out of the back chimney. Is that a chimney for just a boiler?
No.
No? Pam, do you know what's in that chimney?
Yeah, that's the boiler. So
Oh,
the,
it is? Oh,
yeah, so
sorry.
the boiler currently
No,
goes up that chimney. It's not used for a fire, which would be hazardous.
So
So that
how
would
is-
be rerouted.
It is going to be rerouted. Okay.
Correct.
And will we see that from the street or no?
I mean, I think we probably need to put a chimney cap on that front chimney eventually anyway. So if we can do it so we don't see it from the street, that would be ideal.
Okay, well, just let us know, because that's one of those, we've had a few unpleasant surprises along those lines where all of a sudden a little mushroom appears somewhere.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, just let us, either try to just make it go away, which it probably can, or just come back and tell us what you want.
Okay.
Okay. I don't really have any comments. Heather, do you have the original, the drawings up, just to scroll through them real quick? I mean, it was a very straightforward application. The drawings were very good and explanatory. Really, the only question was about that chimney, and of course, poor Abby isn't here today to represent the chimney police. So the plan is fine. The massing to me is pretty straightforward.
Great.
All right, well, why don't we go around and see if there are any comments from commissioners. Paul, any thoughts?
Yes, a couple. I did go to the site. I did talk with Pam. I did walk around it. I did observe the chimneys and so forth. I think the addition is fine. I think it's proportionate. It's going to look good. I don't have any question about that. I think the lone sticking point is removal of an original chimney. And I don't have vast experience on the commission, but the guidelines are quite straightforward in that respect, and really do everything but preclude us from allowing that. So my understanding from the last hearing was that back chimney, which is barely visible, the only place you can see that chimney, at least in my observation, was across the street on the house side of Monument, standing at the bottom of the access road, the name of which I've forgotten at the moment. But every other perspective, including head on to the house, you can't see that chimney. So, I mean, I'm torn here, because I think it's not unreasonable for them to want to remove it. On the other hand, I do think it's inconsistent with the guidelines, as opposed to preserving it even if it's not functional. So that's my lone concern, and I'd like to hear from our colleagues on that issue or other issues.
Thank you, Paul. Nia.
Okay, I like Paul. I have no problem whatsoever with changing the maid's room and raising it up. I think that'll be just fine. Likewise, no issue with the bay window, and I'm delighted that the front door will be restored. That's terrific. I had two issues. One, I just wanted a little more discussion on the windows. It's my understanding that some of the windows are original, some are not. More of the originals tend to be on the front of the house, And I know we try to be sympathetic about energy efficiency and whatever, but I would hate to see on a house like this that the front facade, if it has original windows, I would hate to see those swapped out. So maybe there's some compromise where the front facade maintains the existing windows or the ones that are, most visible. So that's the windows, and I'd be interested to see what other commissioners have to say. Regarding the chimney, I did walk up and down Monument Street on the sidewalk across the street from the house. And when you're coming from North Bridge heading south, that angle right where, is it Windmill Hill goes up? The chimney is very visible, and I think it is absolutely integral to the house. So I would be very loath to get rid of that chimney. And that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Nia. Dennis.
I'm going to echo what other people have said. I'm loath to take down the chimney also. Mainly because there's a fireplace at the bottom of it too. So it's at some point it could be actually usable, maybe not with the current owners, but with others. And I think it's original material. So I hate to see taking it down. I'm not hard on that point, but I would hate to see it happen. I did meet with Pam and walk around the whole house and look at windows, and she's very sympathetic. I think I would like to see them delineate specifically now that they've thought about this more, which windows they want to change out, because I think they may have some thoughts on that. And it may change a bit what they're planning to do. For instance, on the bay window, I think they were going to put all new windows, but I think Pam was sympathetic to saving those that aren't warped and out of shape. And I agree with what Nia says. I'd hate to see them changed on the front, but around the back where they're rotted and they, and they can't be saved, I have no problem with seeing those replaced. And on the condensers, I think this is a situation where you may not need a fence because you may be able to put the plantings far enough out because you're looking up at an angle from the street. So you could put the plantings far enough down to create a screen there and still block out those condensers without putting a fence, which would be a bit awkward in that situation, whereas in the other house it was not. Anyway, that's enough.
It's never enough from you, Dennis. Come on.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Luis.
I think that the addition, it's very consistent with the whole look of the house. I think that it's a substantial improvement. It articulates very well with the existing structure. I echo the concern about the windows as a matter of principle. I think that we should keep as many traditional windows as we can, and the windows on the back, they probably can be replaced by new windows. As far as the chimney is concerned, I certainly would keep it, not because the owners want it, because there's a future owner that it's going to be very, very grateful that that chimney was kept. Because, it's a historic feature of the house, and it's the type of thing that we should be able to accommodate, even if they have no functional application currently. So that's what it is. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Luis. Melinda.
So the addition's fine, and it'll give them a lot more useful space, so I don't have a problem with that. I agree with the windows that they should be wherever they could keep the originals. It makes sense to do so. We've been very strict about chimneys. I don't know, there was 6 or 9 months ago on Main Street where there were 3 chimneys, and we held our ground on that. Because there were so many homes around it that also still had 3 chimneys. And although I did not have the opportunity to go and take a look today, my take on this would be that the chimney should be preserved.
Thank you, Melinda. And Kate.
Unmute. Hi there. Yes, I echo my fellow commissioners. I think the renovation work, is fine. And with regards to the chimney and particularly the original facade windows, we're a historic district. That's kind of our bread and butter. So I would like to see those preserved. And, in the back where it's more pressing anyway, I'm fine with that.
Thank you, Kate. All right, so this is a little bit back to the homeowner and the architect. So you've heard the comments. Most of this is non-controversial. What do you think about our comments about keeping the chimney and as many of the original windows on the front facade as possible?
Well, we looked at the rear chimney as, it's not as ornate as you can see from the drawings and the photos as the front chimney, and the fact that it was not visible from very many places around, that was, we didn't see it as too much of a problem for removing it. And we would certainly never remove the front chimney because that is such a part of the house. And we are actually, underneath this, we're actually getting rid of the fireplace, the one fireplace on the ground floor. So, future homeowners will not have a fireplace there to use. I'm not saying that should change your mind about the exterior, but there won't be there won't be a fireplace inside. So yeah, it was mostly because we wanted the space inside, and it was, again, a way of not adding on to the back of the house to be able to get, use this space where this non-used fireplace was. And so that's the chimney part. And the windows, Pam and I have been talking about this, and we think that Pam has worked with window restorers in the Back Bay on some buildings there, and she's happy to talk to some window restorers and look at the front. We would, that bay window, the two-story bay, is so prominent that we would, whatever we do to one window, we would do to all the windows. I think all the windows on the bay have to be the same, either all new or all restored windows. So the front facade, we would be happy to talk to window restorers about that. The windows on the side, you hardly see, and they're, except for one living room window on the south side, the others are pretty far back. You see one on the stair and one near the maid's addition, but one on the second floor and one on the first floor on the north side that we would like to replace. But they're going to be so close to the new work that I think that would look all right. Does that answer any questions?
So I think the windows on the front bay are, I'm not a professional, but my guess is we can save those and have those restored. The ones on the side, some of them are pretty far gone and being held to, the window itself is being held together with pieces of metal. But that's not the case on the front bay. So I would prefer that we can restore the ones that, in particular, the ones on the front, which have original glass. Some of the ones on the side don't have their original glass anymore. And so try and restore the front. But then leave open I'm not sure that the ones on the side can be restored.
But we can talk to somebody about it and get their opinion.
Thank you. Paul, you had a comment or question?
Well, not to prolong this, but I don't see how we act on this. It seems to me we ought to have more specificity with respect to which windows go, which windows stay, or if they all need to go because it's cost prohibitive to restore, then that gives us more information on the basis of which to approve replacing all of them. So, and then with respect to the chimney, I agree with others and myself that just has to stay, and it may be an inconvenience, but it's reasonably hard and fast in our guidelines. So I think there has to be a modification of the application, and we need to have further information. And I don't know if the owner wants to do that or not.
On the windows, can you approve the addition, but not approve the replacement of the windows on the front? And, can we separate something and then we can get back to you on the things that are in question?
Yes. The chimney is a little bit tricky. I mean, I'm actually just looking at Google Maps. You can't, just driving by, you can see that chimney from the street. I mean, you drive up and down and it's there. And I'm a little concerned that it is the route for boiler exhaust because something's gonna, so the chimney flue is in use because the boiler exhaust is going up there. So maybe, is it that you're removing the fireplace itself, the mantle and what have you, but leaving the flue intact?
No, we were going to reroute it. And I have to admit to not being up on the latest conversation on that. I apologize for that. But I'm pretty sure we were going to reroute it. I mean, the contractor who's priced this and looked at it and met with all of his subs there knew the chimney was going. So. Isn't it right, Pam? Weren't we going to vent out the side in the basement when the foundation wall?
We were thinking about venting out the side, which then you wouldn't see.
Yeah.
I think the rationale for the chimney was, we've been working on this design for 3 years, and part of our goal was to not increase the footprint of the house. And any scheme that we looked at, we had to bump out 10 feet, 10 feet in the back of the house. And by removing that section within the house that the chimney encompasses, we were able to avoid that.
Yeah.
So there are ways, I mean, you can, it's a little bit tricky, but you can actually support the top part of the chimney. You know, I mean, you could leave the chimney in place and then support it and remove the masonry below.
Yeah, so I think we'd have to look at doing that.
Yeah.
Would, you know.
Peter?
Yes, ma'am.
I have to say this in Abby's absence because Abby is our the member
Chimney
on
police.
our commission who is the chimney police, and she would very much say that, you know, you can support the chimney and do whatever you want inside the house, but the chimney itself can be left. So I think that.
So I
hopefully can
agree. I
happen.
think that's what the commission would prefer, to see that chimney remain, even though it is a secondary chimney. It's integral to the, I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful house. And that image from the street is so,
Yeah.
you know, charming and stunning. And part of its charm is that it has these little kind of odd things like two different chimneys and all. But it's a fairly substantial piece of masonry. So I think we'd prefer to see the top part of the chimney preserved. And Betsy, I think there's probably, I mean, it's a little bit dicey, but there are ways to do that.
Right. There are ways to do that.
Okay.
But Peter, to answer, can you hear me? I'm not sure
Yes,
if I'm muted or not.
Yep.
I would go along with Betsy. I should first agree with Paul that we really need to hear more about the windows. We have to have them delineated, and I said that first off. But I would hate to see, if they want to move ahead with this project, hate to see the demolition and the work done, which we have no problems with, as far as I know, in that phase of this thing. So I'd like to see that separated out if we could, and give them the ability to move ahead.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what we're saying, Dennis. I think that essentially, if I'm hearing everyone correctly, the replacement of the windows outside the addition would be sort of taken out of this application for the moment. And the chimney top would be left in place. So I think that addresses the commissioner's concerns. I don't think there were any other. It sounds like it might be a separate application or an amendment to come back and begin replacing windows on the existing house. And that's when we'd have to see which ones. And I think I understand, Pam. It's a complicated enough facade. I'm not exactly sure which windows are rotting and all that kind of thing. So go ahead.
Sorry. You want me to go ahead?
There you go.
I think we were saying that the ones on the front, certainly all the windows on both stories of the bay, and then the large window over the front door being the most prominent windows. And then
can we see the front facade of the house, please?
Yeah, you're on the back elevation there.
That would be a big help. Thank you.
Well, that doesn't do it because we cut the front off here so you could see the addition.
I think it's the last drawing. in
I
the
think you
set.
need to go to the views.
Go to the renderings, yeah. The very last drawing, I think. That one right there.
Okay, so
Okay, thank you.
okay, so the front bay,
Mhm.
8 windows, 4 on the first floor, 4 on the second. The large window above the front door are the ones that we would be most interested in looking to restore. Yeah, and the windows down the side, on this side,
Mhm.
Heather, run your pointer on the photo. Well, yeah, that's the window. There's 2 windows on the side on the
Yeah,
second
those
floor.
two there.
Yeah. The one in the middle there, closest to the front of the house. Scoot your pointer over 1 window to the right.
One more.
One more, yeah, thanks. That window, Pam, I don't know what kind of shape that window is in. That's one that we were thinking about replacing, of course. But that window we could look at restoring, so we could leave that out of the approval. But the next window, move your cursor 1 to the left. That window becomes integral with the dormer of the maid's addition. And it would be really nice if we could replace that window.
And then the carriage house, there's no work, correct?
No work.
Yeah, that's all those windows are new and they don't even match the house. So.
Yeah.
And then what about the other side elevation, which I know you can't really see.
Well, Heather, scroll
You
up
one drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple or a few.
So
there.
there's the two windows closest to the street. We could keep in the restore category. Heather, do you want to scroll that drawing down a little bit so you can see it a little better? Yeah. But then everything further back, which is the dining room bay, which is all new construction, and then the 2 windows above that are in pretty bad shape, and you barely see them. So we'd like to keep those in the approved tonight, if you're approving it, a replacement package.
The only question I would have is, and it's unfortunate you have to replace this bay because other than the fact that sinking, it's in great condition, unfortunately. And in talking with Pam, the front windows there are in great shape and they're very, very attractive, even though you don't clearly see them. The side windows do need to be replaced. Again, and that's a situation where I'd like to see when you restore it to put in, replace the front windows and put them back in again because they're original and they're in good shape.
When you say front windows, Dennis, do you mean the street facing window of the dining room bay there?
No, the street facing window and the window that's facing the backyard, the 2 little smaller windows. Pam has pointed out to me that they're askew because the bay is sinking. So those probably have to be replaced because they're out of line. But the front windows, the front of the bay windows seem to be in good shape and match the bay in the front.
You mean the bay on the side?
I think I'm lost.
The bay on the side has 3 sets of windows. A set of, I think they're 2 over 2, or at least 2 in the front of the bay, which faces the side yard. And then on the back side of the front side is a thin window to form that part of the bay. And those windows are in bad shape on the 2 sides, but the front windows are in good shape.
So those could be
The side windows. Yeah. I think it's going to be tricky. We have to rebuild the whole thing from scratch. It may be tough to integrate 2 old windows and 2 new windows into the bay.
I don't think it's going to be a problem, and you're replicating the bay exactly as it is. So my understanding is you're doing exactly the same bay, right?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah, those ones are iffy. We had significant water damage there. The ones above it and the second story are really damaged. Those are held together with metal clamps. Right. And we did have, because that bay was poorly built, we did have a lot of water damage at one point. So I'd say the side ones are definitely bad. The ones facing at the front of the bay, facing the side, those are 50-50.
Okay, I think we've almost beaten this poor horse to death. So my sense is this: if I don't remember what the drawings actually say, I think, or the application, I can't remember if it says all of the windows in the work area are being replaced.
It
on the
does
main
divide
house.
the two. It says that it's on the construction checklist. It says that the new work would have new windows and the existing where the other windows that we would be replacing would be replacement windows. I think I said it better in the construction checklist than I just did there. But.
All right, so that's the only thing is I think we would just want to be clear in our approval of that. Now, I think my understanding is that, and let me see if I get the gestalt here. The homeowner is willing to restore the vast majority of windows facing the public way.
Yes.
Okay, so that's my sense. Now, specifically, we may have to go back on the drawings and say, oh, wait, except for, these 4 or 5, whichever, I can't remember which ones, just to have that in the approval record. But I think we could, if we were to approve this tonight, we would just say contingent on that markup drawing, make sure we all agree.
Okay.
And Heather will follow up. And that we're asking, and you're graciously accepting our request to keep that top of the back chimney intact. Were there other questions from commissioners? I don't think so. And I think we've addressed people's concerns. Am I right? Yes. Okay. So I think we've talked about it as commissioners enough. I'm going to open it up to public comment. Is there public comment on this application are we at, I can't remember the address on Monument Street. I apologize. 66. Sorry, I was at 74 on Google Maps. Is there any comment on the application for at 66 Monument Street? I don't see any. So it's a little complicated. So who would like to make the motion?
I'll take a shot at it if you want.
Thank you.
I move that we approve the application for certificate of appropriateness with respect to the property at 66 Monument Street to demolish an existing addition and construct a new addition, and to rebuild a bay window, and to replace such windows as are part of the new addition and immediately contiguous to the new addition, but to try to restore and retain those windows that face Monument Street and are part of the bay on the right side of the building, I hope. And further, that we not approve the removal of the back chimney.
Did you get all that down, Heather? Don't put the word hope in the motion. All right, thank you, Paul. Can I get a second on that?
I second with one caveat that if the applicant determines that one of the windows that are to be restored, it's not possible to have it restored, that he should seek administrative approval for the replacement window that will go there.
On the amendment? Okay, thank you. All right, we have a motion, a second. All in favor. Paul?
Aye.
Nia?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Luis?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So unanimous approval. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Nice presentation, Pam.
Thank
Well
you.
done on preserving that house. It's a beautiful house.
Yeah, we're
All right, so we'll take care of, and Heather, we'll follow up and just make sure the drawing is marked up to show the window agreement that we've just made. All right.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
folks.
Thank you.
All right, have a good evening. Good luck with the project. All right, and last but not least, we're 536 Lowell Road. This is to construct additions, a new dormer, and associated improvements. Allison Kennedy, Jonathan Bird, and I think Elise Stone is here as well.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. And most of us, I just drove by. I don't know if anyone else went in and spoke to you folks today, or yesterday, I should say.
I did.
You did, Nia?
Yep. I didn't speak to anybody. I just went.
Paul, you went in?
No, I knocked on the door. I couldn't find any lights, but I did walk around it.
All right, so I think, was everyone here for the presentation last time? I think there probably aren't any questions about the application, but let's just maybe look at the front facade, as that's the one I think. There we go. That's the proposed front elevation there. So you can see on the top elevation there, there's the new dormer and the infill at the first arch in the portico there. Otherwise, I think that front facade, at least correct me if I'm wrong, is essentially the same.
Yep, totally unchanged.
And then the back facade, now that's the one you can kind of see that from what's the street?
Barnes Hill.
But it's hard to see.
Yeah, you can kind of see the right side elevation from Barnes Hill, and also, as you come down Lowell Road.
Yeah.
As you come down Lowell Road, you kind of
that's
see it over the pond. It's kind of set behind.
But if we go to the back elevation again, sorry, Elise, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's
Can
fine.
we go to that back elevation, Heather? Sorry.
In the back elevation, there was. It looks like an addition done maybe in the 80s. That on the right side. So all those windows there that you see are all there now, not being touched. So, and that was done. And so our proposal on the left side.
Yeah.
So it's we're adding the doors in the back of the dining room between two existing windows. And then it's kind of a covered porch over there's an existing deck there now. And one of the reasons, we wanted it to be open below because there's a really nice view from the kitchen, which is right to the right of that, and wanted to keep that view open to the kind of to the pond. And that's, they like that outdoor space as it is. So, and then the master bedroom is going above, and, we didn't want to have to start disturbing. There's kind of odd roofs that were done with this addition on in the 80s. And we didn't want to try to add on to that because it would have really meant taking off the entire roof structure on the right side. So it was easier and less expensive construction-wise to just add the master as a new element. So that's why we kind of came up with this on the left. So as opposed to disturbing anything. It's the kitchen that's 2 years old that doesn't want to change, and then to the right of that is the family room. Again, that's just getting a little bigger on the inside, but not changing. So again, so we added on to the left.
But massing wise, really the only change is the second story above.
It's the second story, exactly. Yes, and I realize it's a little awkward from that side elevation, but you never see it flat on like I'm showing it. And I feel that even though you do see it, it does recede because you're kind of looking at it as you're coming down Lowell Road. And like I said, we did look at a bunch of other options, but this was the least disruptive from three sides of the house, if you know what I mean. We really didn't want to touch the kind of more historic side, which I feel, if you look at that right side elevation, which was probably at one point, if you want to Heather, can
I
you
think
put
you have
that
to
up?
scroll down.
Down, yeah.
Hmm.
If you put that one on, that
There,
one was
there we go.
probably the original front of the house, and who knows
Right.
why it wasn't put next to Lowell Road, but I didn't want anything coming out of that, if you see what I'm saying. We wanted to leave that elevation alone, and you know, the left side was way too complicated. We didn't want to add to any massing on that side. So, you know, this was the to be able to get a real master bedroom. And also what happens right now in this house is that the second floor doesn't connect. So you have to walk through a bedroom. So this is a way of getting 4 bedrooms that, you know, you could get to without going through another bedroom. So without touching every other room. So it was kind of the least invasive really to the house as a whole, especially on the inside. So, but that's really the only real massing in terms of, you know, except on the front, obviously the dormer. But
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. I didn't mean to steal the microphone, everybody. I've just nosy architect. That's me. Paul, any questions, comments?
No, I really don't have any questions. I think, given the vantage points from the public way, I don't have a problem with it. I think the dormer in the front, the 3 windows in the front, if I remember it right, is actually adds a little proportion to the building.
All right, thank you. Nia.
I agree with Paul that elevation that faces Lowell Road, the new dormers are going to look great, and the addition of the space between the garage and the house, I think, is great. One of the questions I had is, I think the right side elevation that we're currently looking at, the older part of the house, which Elise did not want to change. Obviously, that's very important. The new master bedroom, I also don't have a problem with. I just have a question. You know, we often talk about an addition, how it stands relative to the main part of the house. And to me, those windows in the master bedroom look larger than the windows in the main part of the house. So that struck me as a little odd. Whether in fact that is something that is going to be relevant from the distance across the pond, either to Barnes Hill or to Lowell Road. I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up as a question.
Yeah, so the current windows aren't big enough for egress. So that's one in terms of the, you know, for a bedroom. So the ones I've shown are kind of the double hung size that do work for egress. It was mostly, so there was 2 things. So on somewhere in that room, you have to have a window that size. So technically the rear ones could be the larger windows, and, you know, we could make the smaller ones on that side. And I almost did that, but I did want to kind of have this discussion, because if all things equal, like the view out of that room is nice, right? And that's an important element of this bedroom. So, you know, that was also to get the view, and then the consistency in the bedroom, like, you know, or when you're looking at this, like we looking at it right now flat, and, you know, me being archaic and only have hand drawings, I don't have a good angle from that side. But if you actually saw this, and the public would never see it from this side, but let's say you were on the pond and you looked back, you know, you would see both, you know, the different sized windows on both sides, right? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if it bothers everyone, and that, you know, it's more important to get this passed, like, you know, we would change the windows to reflect it there. But I just want to think about the whole thing as a 3-dimensional. That's the one thing, because the back windows would have to be bigger. So, I mean, I think it's a good question, because I don't disagree with you, Nia, just looking at this elevation.
Okay. And by the way, Elise, I love your drawings. Your hand-drawn drawings are just beautiful. So don't make any apologies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nia. Dennis.
I pretty much agree with what everybody said. Particularly, I like the dormer in the front, which I know several people have said adds architecture to it. Other than that, I don't have any problems. I have one question, just out of curiosity. What's the date of the original house?
Oh, I have that in the application. I think it was, Allison, and do you guys have it?
Well, it's interesting because there are two, I had a magazine where the house was actually
1937. Yeah.
It says 37, but then I've read that it was 32. So
Yeah. It's funny. I was going to say 1930s. I'm just curious. Thank you. I think it's fine. I have no questions.
Thank you, Dennis. Luis.
I think that this is a very nice addition of the dormer on the front, and I think that it's a very nice project.
Thank you, sir. Melinda.
I think it's an elegant solution, and I have no problems with it at all.
Thank you. And Kate.
No questions, no issues. I think it'll look good.
All right, and I don't really have any questions. At least what I would say about the windows is that the back elevation, it has a lot of character in it because of all these other windows.
Yes.
So I don't think it's going to read, I don't think it will stand out as much as everyone thinks it does. It might a little bit on that side elevation, but I appreciate the need for the view, and I don't really have an issue with the windows.
Okay, great.
All right, so having heard from the commission, I'm going to see if there's any public comment. Is there any public comment on the application for 536 Lexington Road to
Lowell Road.
Pardon?
Lowell Road.
Lowell Road, sorry, I'm stuck on Lexington Road.
a lot of people are during rush hour.
That's for sure.
All right, is there any public comment? I don't think there's any public left. I see Jane. All right, I'd look for a motion from the commission.
I move we approve the application of 536 Lowell Road to construct additions, a new dormer, and associated improvements.
Second.
All right, all in favor. Paul?
Aye.
Luis?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Mia?
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
And Kate? And I'm an aye. All right, you're approved.
Oh,
Thank you
so
all.
much.
Yeah,
Thank
and thank
Thank
you,
you.
Elise. Thank you,
Yeah,
folks,
thank
and
you.
good luck with the project.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
You too.
Too.
All right, folks, so we are done with our regular business. Heather, there wasn't anything new that I saw come over the transom the last minute?
No.
Now, I know the only thing in our other business was this historic districts. If we could just spend a minute talking about that. I don't know if any of you had a chance to review the letter that Paul Ghost wrote for me. I made
It's
some
great.
changes. We're thinking about sending this out to the neighborhood. I did reach out to Matt Anderson Miller and did not hear back yet. So I don't think it's a controversial letter. It really is just
No.
saying, here's what happened and here are our thoughts. And basically we're recommending that that this is your neighborhood. If you'd like to proceed, I think here's my sense, and I think Paul may back me up. This doesn't feel like it's cooked enough to go to town meeting this year. It would have to be in by, when do warrants due? February, Heather, at this point? I think was a
I
preview.
think it's March. It's not till March.
Well, there's a
And is-
preview of warrants, Jane. When is that? The
Hang
warrants?
on.
I heard about it at the chairs meeting. And
Yeah, we just talked about the calendar and I
yeah,
should.
it's in February somewhere. So, let's
The
see.
warrant opens on February 27th
Yeah, it opens in February.
and closes at the end of March.
Okay, but the reality is that's a month from now because it's toward the end of December, the holidays, then we've got January. Let me hear from commissioners. What do you all think about this letter and sending this note out to the neighborhood? Any thoughts?
Peter, I looked at it quickly. I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but I just want to clarify our stand. If they decide to move ahead and they want to do this, I think they want to know whether we're supportive of it or not. And I'm not so sure. I mean, we're kind of walking the line at this point. Don't we at some point have to say something along those lines?
Well, you know, it's a good question. The warrant, Heather, remind me, and I apologize. So the warrant would be written by, would it be submitted by us, by the HDC, or by the neighborhood? And we
Could
would
be
speak
either.
in support of it.
I guess it could be either, yeah.
It could be either. So it's a good question, Dennis. You know, we would, in theory, generally speak in favor of expanding historic districts, but, and I think what Paul has done nicely here is summarize for us I mean, let's face it, there are pros and cons. There
Right,
mostly
sure. Yep,
pros,
yep.
but you know, there are some restrictions we're putting in place, and the reality is you, the neighborhood, have to agree this is a good idea. It's not, we're not telling you to do this.
No, and I don't think we should be in that position. I agree with that. I just think the bottom line is if you decide to move ahead with this, we'll support you. Because we're in
think that
favor
is
of creating
typical.
historic districts.
Yeah, that's, it would be odd for them to move ahead and you to oppose it.
Right.
Or have no comment.
That's true. Paul.
Yeah, I mean, but aren't we in a place at which it's difficult to us to say that? We certainly can't say it here because we're unclear about really what the neighborhood's temperature is at this juncture. I mean, you had some representatives of the neighborhood who were apprehensive about the hurdles they'd have to jump through. And so I think what we're trying to do here is communicate back to them, look, we're still here. We're still interested. Are you interested? And if you are interested, we want you to formalize that a little bit and get back to us by some defined date. And then it seems to me we make the decision to endorse or not to endorse. I mean, in other words, if they come back and there's still only roughly 40% who are unequivocal and another, whatever it is, 60% who are sort of mixed, a few opposed, a few ambiguous, a few, I don't really give a damn. I mean, then that might dictate a very different result for us.
I don't see why it would. We're in favor of historic districts. If they decide as a majority to move ahead with a historic district, are we in support of them doing that?
Well, I would disagree, Dennis, because if they decide to proceed with 40% support, that it's not.
Oh,
that
I don't
we're
agree with that.
against-
If the majority, I said, if the majority decides,
Well, that's a different
60 or 70% decide to move ahead, even with a group that doesn't want to do it, are we going to support that 60 or 70%?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't
where I
think it
am.
would fly at town meeting if it was only 60 or 70.
Oh, I agree with you. I'm not saying it's going to fly. I'm just saying, are
So
we
maybe
going
the-
to be supportive of a new district?
I mean, in a sense, what you're asking is maybe we somehow put in here that while we'd love to support this, unless there's overwhelming neighborhood support, we don't see a path forward or something like that.
Right. See, that's what I would exactly, Peter. That's what I'm saying. I think the letter is a little bit too squishy and I think they're going to, those that are in favor of this are going to look at this and say, well, boy, these people aren't helping us much here. They're not very in support of this thing. I thought they're supposed to be supporting new historic districts. So I think if we say we'd support it if the neighborhood really wants it and the majority wants it, but we aren't if they're not. I mean, that's as simple as that.
If I may say something.
Go ahead, Luis, and then Paul.
I think that the neighborhood that came to us because we are the group of people that have the expertise to determine whether this is a good decision. See, our role here is to guide the neighbors about whether it is a good decision to create a historic district in the Jenny Dugan Road. And I think that we should first come to that juncture and make a decision ourselves. Do we believe that the Jenny Dugan Road neighborhood, it's a good idea? Would it add anything to the culture of Concord? Would it be a positive addition to the historic culture? Once we have decided that, then we can go ahead and offer that support to the neighborhood. And that support is going to be independent whether the neighborhood wants it or not. You see, if three neighbors say we would like to have a historic district here and the other ones don't, and if those three neighbors said, you know, we checked this with Historic Districts Commission and they came to the conclusion that it would be favorable, then, you know, we should be on the record for that. You see, we don't have a decisive role on what's going to happen. That role belongs to the neighbors, and that's what I try to emphasize when I mentioned in the meeting that every time that we did not approve a proposal was because there was substantial neighborhood opposition to the proposition. So
I think
my
so.
position.
Yeah, so I hear you. Well, let me just say one quick thing here. So what I think we should do actually is put a note about the warrant article process, because remember, not just to get to the warrant article, I think a town meeting requires, is it a 2/3?
2/3, yes.
So it requires 2/3 approval at town meeting. I mean, there are other hurdles to get through. I think we have to remain agnostic as to whether or not it's a good idea to create a historic district. It may or may not be. The reality is as the Historic Districts Commission, if a district forms, then now we're obligated to, to shepherd the projects through and help them develop guidelines, et cetera. But I think getting it to a warrant and into town meeting does require, in my opinion, overwhelming support from the body of applicants, because we're not going to do it. In fact, I would say we do not create the warrant article.
I would agree with you, Peter. I would
speak in
agree with you
favor.
on that, but I think Luis hit the nail on the head, and that is, we haven't agreed whether this is a good idea or not yet, have we? Or have we? I'm not sure I've heard that yet. And I think once we do that, then we're moving in the direction of supporting it if they want to go ahead.
Well, first of all, Luis was talking about possibly, if 3 houses decide they wanted to go ahead. I think the value of this becoming a historic district would be if the whole street buys in. I think just carving out 3 houses, I'm not sure that makes a lot of sense. So
That's not what I'm referring to. I'm just
Oh,
saying
I'm
that
sorry.
if a minority of the owners wants to have it, they should have their day in court and they should be rejected. You see, if all the owners want to have it, then they should also have their day in court. But our role is to be informative to them and to tell them this is good or this is not good in terms of being a historic district, because we're the ones who have that expertise. We're the ones who deal with it all the time.
Paul, what were you trying to say there?
Yeah, I mean, I look at it maybe a little bit differently. It seems to me that I don't think a historic district there is objectively a great thing or a bad thing. I think it depends in part on how the people who live there and own these homes and maintain them and their passion for them is displayed. I mean, if they're indifferent, they happen to buy one and they're not particularly maintaining it very well, and they don't place a great value on it because it's energy inefficient, that would color my view whether that neighborhood should be a historic district, because lots of things fall out of the fact that we make it a historic district. So I don't feel personally, I speak only for myself here, that I'm in a position to say that I would automatically endorse this anyway. I'd like to know what they think and why they think it. And for what purposes,
entirely.
what their passions are about it. And I think partly we ought to be, I feel, we ought to be in a position of learning from the community that's come before us about a historic district. And so I'm not in favor of language in the letter which puts a foot on the scales particularly, except to say we're here if you really want this.
Sorry, Luis, let Nia has something to say.
Let Nia speak,
please. Go ahead.
I agree with Paul entirely. I think the letter sets the exact right tone, that we very much are supportive of this, but that they have to first demonstrate that they are gung-ho about this and really want to do this, because it will fail regardless, if they aren't gung-ho about it. And I think that the tone of the letter is perfect. And I don't think we should add in whether we support it or not, because I think we're not in a position to really know, how they feel.
Thank you, Luis.
I beg to disagree with both Paul and Nia, because I don't think that our position is to determine whether the neighbors agree or disagree about a proposition. I don't think that the neighbors, as a matter of principle, are the ones who have all the necessary knowledge about the historic references that the historic district provides. So I think that our role as a historic districts commission is to precisely guide that process and inform a neighborhood that they are a very worthwhile addition to the historic legacy of Concord. And as such, we should guide them from that perspective, because again, we are the ones who have that expertise. I don't think that we should be responding to the popular vote, which whether they want it or not. On the other hand, once we may support a historic district designation application, but if the neighbor doesn't want to have it, then we're not in a position to impose it in any way, but we're in a position, and that is a position that we should take, and that we should poll ourselves to determine whether we believe that the Jenny Dugan Road, it's a worthwhile addition to the historic armamentarium of Concord. That's all.
You know what I realize? I have to admit, I have not read through our bylaws and guidelines. And Heather, I'm not to put you on the spot. Is there any language in our bylaws and guidelines about new historic districts?
I can't answer that. I have no
So
idea.
I think we should probably read that. I'm realizing it. Did anyone else read through our guidelines? I can't say I did.
Paul probably did before he wrote the letter.
Yeah, the actual act?
Well, yeah. See, the bylaw talks about creation of the district commission and who gets appointed and all that kind of stuff. But there's probably language in there about the creation of new districts. I mean, there must be some guideline or language. So actually, you know what, now that I think of it, let me see if I can find that. I think we're agreeing to disagree in some ways. I think the letter will both be sort of generically supportive, but it will also point out that it's really up to you. And I think that's probably okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Again, I read it quickly. I didn't read it thoroughly. Just my initial feeling was that we were a little too much on the fence and didn't seem very supportive of it. But maybe it's there, and I just didn't read it carefully.
Okay, I'm looking at the act.
Yes.
Section 12.
Okay.
It says changes in historic districts.
Yeah.
The districts described in section 2, which are the original existing ones, may be enlarged or reduced, and new districts may be created by a 2/3 vote at any regular or special town meeting called for the purpose. Prior to any such action, the planning board shall hold a public hearing, duly advertised thereon, and shall report its recommendations to the town meeting.
The planning board? That's weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what it says about historic districts.
Okay, well, that doesn't really help us.
Peter?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know why we can't throw a sentence in that says, if the majority of your street wants to do this, we would be happy to support you. The other thing I wanted to add was that when we had our last conversation with them, we said they should come to us and tell us what standards they would like. And my guess is that's a fairly daunting thing to get the street to agree to. But they also have the ability to make the standards quite loose. This is not, we're very ensconced into the antiques in this town and what we want and what we don't want. But in this scenario, these homes aren't that old. I do think actually a lot of oh, there's some echo now, I don't know why. I think a lot of the owners are very passionate about mid-century modern, and there is certainly a lot of buyers who want just that. They go to towns like Lexington more frequently, but they're, you know, there are pockets of these homes and they always sell. But they don't have to make the rules as stringent as what we currently have for the antique homes. So to my way of thinking, if they wanted to, it sounded like the people who are in the split levels were the most nervous about it because they felt that they would be actually jeopardized when they went to sell their homes, that people might not want to buy them because they're in the historic district. Certainly one of the people one of the owners was quite vocal on that point. But I also think if the rules were, you know, if the guidelines, which they probably haven't touched yet in terms of trying to develop, were a little more relaxed, it might make people more amenable to including this. I think it would be nice for them to, I mean, like I said, there are other towns that have done this. This is not so unique. These are very cool homes, and I think it would be great to make sure that none of them got torn down. And beyond that, I think that would be the primary thing that we should be looking for them. I don't know if they feel the same way, but I think that would be the goal.
So that's a good cart before the horse question. If I may, Nia, real quick, I think we don't have new guidelines to offer. Right. Yet.
And then that's going to be hard for them to think up, and who's going to, you know.
And there's not really, I don't know. Well, anyway, Nia, what were you going to say?
Well, okay, so let's say, as proposed, we throw in the sentence about we're behind them if the, you know, the overwhelming majority comes back to us with a plan, right? Mm-hmm. So they come back to us with guidelines that make absolutely no sense. And so suddenly we're now in a position of having said we support this, but now they want all sorts of weird and wonderful rules and guidelines that we in fact are not in favor of. And we've gone ahead and said, okay, you make a plan, you come back to us, and if you all agree, we're behind you 100%. So that's why I don't want that sentence in there.
Well, you assume that it'll be
it's not
whatever.
No, I'm just saying it's not defined yet. So I think it's hard for us to be totally commit to being behind this when we really don't know what they're going to come back proposing.
But I think it's in theory.
Hang on, Paul was, you had something to offer. Oh, you're muted though.
Yep.
We can't hear.
You got to unmute yourself. Paul, you got to unmute yourself.
Can't hear you.
I have to jump off anyway, but I'm very much against quote throwing in a sentence that basically says, if you've got a majority, that's good enough for us. To me, and again, I speak only for myself, we're in a learning curve here. And part of that learning to me is understanding at a more sophisticated level what that neighborhood wants and why they want it, and what principles they hold so dear about this particular architectural time and these particular architectural homes. So unless we have that input, I find it very difficult to say, oh, great, you know, we'll support this at town meeting. I think that requires a discussion internally, and I've always made the point in these meetings that there's a threshold question. Is this really something that we should be doing? I don't know why we're talking about guidelines. The neighborhood doesn't get to write its guidelines. I mean, if anything, that might be something we would do, or at least draft. I don't know why we'd have separate guidelines for this historic district. Anyway, that's my piece. Do what you have my
Well, hang on a
blessing.
sec. Wait, hang on a sec. I just have to take a screenshot. So you have to all just look at the camera and smile before Paul goes. I'm just going to do it. I'll do a couple of these, but if you look, this is for the town report. So hang on a sec. 1, 2, 3. All right. I think that's probably okay. I'm going to look at it. It looks like everybody had their eyes open. Well done. All right. Thank you, Paul. We may tool around with this a little bit, but we're not going to do
Gotcha.
anything tonight.
Gotcha, whatever. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right. Well, Paul had to leave, but maybe what I'd ask, Dennis, would you all just read through the letter one more time? And if there are any comments about, I mean, I actually think the letter is just right, kind of as is. It really doesn't. It's a little bit agnostic. It does say, please go back. If you feel like you're ready as a neighborhood, then come back in mid-March. I mean, the only thing is, I guess we would say we're obviously not going to propose this year. And it may be that we need to take this year to develop enough background and support guideline amendments or whatever, so that if it goes to town meeting, we've done our homework. This feels a little bit rushed to me, and that's the part that makes me nervous. I don't want to rush it, and then, as somebody just pointed out, we get a new district approved, and then it's like, well, then what are the guidelines? Oh, we don't have any guidelines. That would be a disaster, in my opinion. So,
I have one question.
yes, one question.
Do we agree ourselves that there should be a historic district in the Jenny Dugan Road?
I think generally, yes, is what I would say. We have no, here's the thing. I heard no strong objection from anyone on the commission saying, oh God, nah. It's more like, well, I can see why mid-century modern. And
I heard strong reservations to the point that some of us are willing to throw the whole issue into the neighbors. Therefore, walking away from our responsibility as a commission.
But I think it's different, Luis. What I would say is this: it's not our job to advocate for new historic districts, really, unless the neighborhood wants it. I do think it's a cart before the horse thing. If the neighborhood wants it, all right.
That's what we've been told.
What's that?
That's what we have been told. You see, the
right.
neighbor,
well, we've been told by a
a
subset.
At least some of them.
Well, that's the crux of it. All right. So what I'd like to do, frankly, one of the things I'm trying to reach out to Matt, who was the prime motivator here, to hear. I mean, I may hear back from him, and he may say, you know what, forget it. There's too much. Or he may say, no, there's been some good buzz, and we had a cocktail party, and more people are on board. That would be better to hear, and then I think we'd go from there. But what we're asking them to do is organize more, show us some enthusiasm. I just haven't heard anything back.
Right.
So, all right. So does that feel sufficiently unresolved for this evening?
Perfect.
All right. Our next meeting is the 7th of January. No. Really?
Yes. I think so.
God.
Yes.
Wow. Love the dog, Kate.
2021.
Oh, gosh.
Kate, you're like a living holiday Christmas card right there. That just made it into the
Hey, did
town.
anybody decide on the present for?
We did not. Abby took that on, and I'm sorry she's not
Abby's
here
in
tonight.
charge.
Abby,
I got an email from her
oh, you did?
right
Okay.
at the start of the meeting saying she was having issues with internet, so she couldn't get on tonight.
Okay.
She's gonna try, but it looks like it wasn't resolved.
But Abby said she would take it off my plate, and I trust her to. She's putting together a gift card, and I think it was for some service that old people like me don't use, so I can't remember what it's called.
Will somebody tell me how much and who to send it to?
Yes, $1,000 to Peter Nobley. I'm just
No,
kidding.
it's actually 2,000 to Louis D. Berispadia. I'm organizing the whole thing.
Or just a blank check to Heather.
That's so nice.
No, mine is just 2,000. 2,000. That's all.
I think we were going to do, and Heather, sorry, we're talking about this. I think it was $10 or $15 each for a gift card, but Abby's
Or
in charge.
perhaps new windows?
No, Does
That's
anyone
not
have
funny.
Dennis,
Don't bring up the windows.
do you have a barn?
That's not funny.
These houses that with these beautiful windows come up, do you have a barn we can put them in to just save them? Dennis?
No. You know,
Well-
Peter, I have a set of leaded windows from a townhouse on Beacon Hill in my garage. And I don't know what I'm gonna do with those, but I saved them.
But I will tell you what happens every time that he goes into his garage. The windows whisper to him.
They
Tell
do.
him nice
Safety.
things.
Okay. Obviously, we need more wine.
Dennis, I'm going to send you a picture after this.
Happy
Mine
holidays.
is
well-
empty, totally empty.
Yeah, Jane, send it to Abby.
Okay.
Well, listen, it's been a great year, folks. We do have to talk about officers because we officers don't stay in our offices forever. So
Peter,
We
you're
love
doing
you
a great
too.
job. I think you should just keep doing it.
I agree.
Peter, just keep
I'll
it
second
up,
that.
Peter.
I'll second that.
I don't have enough. There's not enough wine for this job.
Yes, there is. WHINE.
There's plenty of wine. We'll talk about that at our next meeting or so. But I'll wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and Happy Winter Solstice on Monday, if that's your persuasion.
Oh, who knew?
Good to know.
Yes, the 21st.
Good news.
It's the shortest day of the year.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jane.
And the days get longer, even though they feel worse.
Thanks for sharing.
All right. Well, what a relief. We made it through the year. So I'll see you on the 7th. Heather, thank you for all your work. And I'll thank Heather Gill on behalf of everyone too. I hope she's doing okay. Yeah. Have you heard any from her?
Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you to you, Peter, for all that you've done this year,
You're welcome.
managing this unruly squad.
It's like herding any group of cats. Jane, thank you for being our fearless select board.
Liaison.
Oh, the liaison, yes.
The liaison.
Protecting us.
Maybe.
All right. Well,
Bon Dieu.
why don't we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Goodbye.
Thanks,
you.
Jane.
Happy
See you
holidays.
next
to you all.
year.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yeah, same to you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Peter.